you live from Tennessee, from the east to the west. We are talking Cowboys everything. And you just entered
the Cowboy Zone.
Welcome back to our pregame show of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And as I promised, I'm going to provide you guys with a pregame show to kick off this week's matchup against the Dallas Cowboys and the Arizona Cardinals. Feeling a little under the weather, but got to fight through it. I promised you guys the show, so today we're going to get it. And for you guys who aren't familiar with us, we keep our pregame shows to under 20 minutes. Just want to give you guys some quick recaps of what to expect for this week's game. Also give you some updates for things that have happened between our last episode on Wednesday and today. And we want to get you guys engagement, getting your game predictions, your bold predictions, and talking about some of your fantasy favorites. So I see the views are starting to go up pretty quick. So guys, thank you everybody who's joining us. Definitely appreciate you tuning in for a pregame show on a Sunday morning. I know everybody has a busy day planned, getting their stuff ready for a full day of NFL football. So I won't hold you guys any longer. Let's get into it really quick, and we'll start off first with the injury report for this week's game.
Injury report.
All right, so I see the views are going up pretty quickly. So if you're watching the show, be sure to get in the comments. Let me know that you're there. Let me know what Facebook group you're watching from. Also, let me know where you're from. And as always, the Cowboy Zone is fueled by the fans. So leave your questions and comments and let us know what you think about this week's matchup. So first off, we'll start off with our Week 3 injury report, which is sponsored by the DC4L Facebook group. If you guys haven't joined already, DC4L is a great Facebook group on social media. It's very engaging. The admin do a great job of keeping it clean and keeping it the way that it should be. They give away great prizes. They also have very engaging comments. So if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you join the DC4L Facebook group on social media. All right, guys, really quickly, let's go through this injury report. As you can see, we got a full house on our injury report this week. Got a lot of guys returning, a lot of guys who are out for the season, and a lot of guys who is going to be kind of up in the air until the game starts. So we'll go from left to right. And once again, be sure to get in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. First of all, we'll start off at the very left. Of course, you guys know we got some devastating news this week. Trayvon Diggs is officially out for the season with a torn ACL. He tore it in practice, so you can expect for him to not touch the field again until 2024. In my opinion, of course, devastating news, but I feel like we have the pieces in place to replace him and to get us through the rest of this season. I know a lot of our fan base is kind of freaking out because they don't know who the next man up is, and they just want to figure out how we're going to move forward with this season. So our coaching staff did a great job of preparing us for something like this. We hate to see it happen, but you look at what the moves they made in the offseason. First of all, they drafted Scott out of South Carolina. This was one of Dan Quinn's hand-picked cornerbacks to kind of be the next guy. So he's definitely going to get an opportunity to show what he can do. Late-round pick. Also, last year, had another late-round pick in Deron Bland, who came out of nowhere and was able to give us a lot of quality stats with the injuries we sustained last year. Just like pregame Sweat said, you're going to move Bland out, let Lewis take the slot. Exactly right. So Bland is going to move out to be the next man up on the outside. I see I got my Mendoza in here. Thank you for joining us, Mendoza. So you move Bland to the outside. Jordan Lewis is returning and healthy, so you get to move Jordan Lewis back to his natural position in the slot. We also made a trade in the offseason to bring in the kid from Miami, traded him for Kelvin Joseph. So he provides us some much needed depth. Personally, I think he's a better slot corner than outside. And I also think he's a better slot corner than Kelvin Joseph. So you also get an upgrade there. And then you go back to the draft 2 years ago, and you've got Israel Mukwamu, the corner slash safety out of South Carolina, who's given us a lot of good things to talk about in the limited reps he's gotten. So you got a lot of flexibility on the inside and outside. You can move Mukwamu outside and put Bland inside. You can put Bland on the outside and let Jordan Lewis take care of the slot. And you still have a lot of depth who can both play inside and outside behind them. So the sky is not falling in our secondary right now, on top of having an amazing pass rush, which will definitely assist in any fall off that we have from our cornerback group. All right, guys, let's go back into it real quick. Let's go through the rest of this injury report. It's 11:26. I like to have you guys out by 11:50, just so you can have the opportunities to get set on your couches, get your favorite beverages of choice, and set your fantasy lineups for a full week of a full day of NFL football. So next to Diggs, you got Donovan Wilson. The reports out of Dallas is that he was a full participant in practice all week, so he should be good to go for this week. A great addition to our lineup after losing Trayvon Diggs early in the week. Next up, we have Tyler Biadasz. Now, this one is an interesting one, and thank you, Pre-Grain Sweat. I don't know how I forgot about Stephon Gilmore. Um, got him for basically nothing in the offseason. He's come in and has proven to provide a lot of veteran leadership. If you watch the last 2 weeks, you can kind of see him directing traffic from his side of the field. And he's also giving you the option of having another talented corner on the opposite of Diggs before Diggs got hurt. And now he can kind of step from being that 1B to an actual one and take on the challenge of guarding some of the team's premier wide receivers. All right, so let me go through this really quickly. Tyler Biadasz is an interesting one. He came on the injury report late in the week. Seems like he was having some issues. Um, they're saying it's questionable, but if you look at the Cowboys' moves yesterday, the two players that they brought up from the practice squad were both centers. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the rules, but each week a team can choose two players from the practice squad that they can bring up to the 53-man roster in order to play for that week and then bring them back down to the practice squad without having to clear waivers. So normally the Cowboys bring up CJ Goodwin and another special teams guy, normally another corner or safety. This week, they chose to bring up two centers from our practice squad. So to me, that signifies a red flag that not only are they concerned about the starter, but the backup, because if the starter's out, the backup essentially is on his own. So they brought up two centers. So pay close attention to that as we get closer to game time. In my opinion, I don't think Tyler Biadasz is going to play today. Next to him, you have Tyler Smith, who tweaked his hamstring or tweaked his quad right before the season started. We haven't seen him in a game yet, but reports from Dallas are that he did practice this week and he will make his season debut against the Cardinals. Just like I talked about with Donovan Wilson, this is going to be another well-needed addition to our offensive line with all the injuries we're dealing with, particularly right next to him with Tyler Biadasz possibly being out. To his right, we have Zach Martin. As you guys remember, Zach Martin had to leave the game last week with a minor injury. It looks like he did give us some limited work in practice this week. And all reports coming out of Dallas are he is expected to play also. Keep going down the line. Another unexpected injury to hit us late in the week. Tyron Smith, my apologies. Tyron Smith hit the injury report with a knee injury. Now, there's not a lot of news that came out of Dallas about this knee injury. To be honest, I'm kind of concerned about it because, for one, you haven't heard a lot of news about it, so we don't know the severity of it. And two, it was late in the week, so those and plus it's Tyron Smith. So anytime an injury takes place with him, you always got to be on caution about it. Pre-game Sweat saying even if he does play, got to think he likely doesn't make it all the way through. That's a great point, Pre-game Sweat. Just my opinion. You don't bring if he plays, you almost have to go with the mind frame that he's gonna play all the way through. If you didn't, you would only bring up one center. In my opinion, you bring up two centers because you're almost certain he isn't gonna play, if that makes sense. Because if he's gonna play and you have a backup on the roster, then you bring up one center just to make sure Tyler goes out, the backup comes in, the backup has a backup. But to bring two centers up, that tells me they're not expecting either one of them to play. And honestly, it tells me they really don't know what direction they want to go in terms of backup center. So they bring up two guys. If God forbid the guy who's starting gets injured, now you don't put a bunch of pressure on that one guy who comes up and you're stuck with him. You at least have another guy you can go to in case things fall apart. But great point, Pregame Sweat. I always appreciate great dialogue from knowledgeable Cowboy fans. So keep it coming and make sure you guys continue to join us on Wednesday nights as well as on Sunday mornings for the pregame show. Joe Tranchina joining us all the way from Italy. Thank you for joining, Joe. Joe says it's incredible that they kept all their starters out of preseason and still they got hurt in regular season. I know, Joe. I mean, it's something a lot of teams are dealing with right now across the league. If you look, and it's crazy that most of the injuries seem to be calf and hamstring and groin. So a lot of soft tissue injuries coming across the league. It pretty much tells you there's no right way to handle preseason because the game is built off of injuries happening, and whether you play week one of preseason or week one of the regular season, you just never know when or who's going to get hurt. All right, we're going to go through our last two guys, and then we'll move forward with the show. The next guy is Brandon Cooks. As you guys remember, he dealt with a slight knee tweak before the Jets game. Typically, those injuries take 1 to 2 weeks. So he missed last week, and reports coming out of Dallas are that he is also expected to play today. And then last but not least, Chuma Edoga, our left guard who started in place of Tyler Smith, sustained an elbow injury in last week's game. And based on reports coming out of Dallas, he is expected to play today as well. Now, the Chuma Edoga return is very interesting for this reason. And I hate to have the sky is falling situations, but you're dealing with Dallas Cowboys. You have to consider it. If Tyler Smith's knee injury is more serious than we know, then there is a major hole at left tackle. We would pretty much have to rely on a Sim Richards to step in at left tackle next to Tyler Smith, next to what I'm thinking is going to be a backup center. So basically, you would have Tyler Smith sandwiched by a rookie left tackle in his first start and a rookie center in his first start. That's not a good recipe for success going into an NFL game. So the Chuma Edoga return provides us a little bit of stability in case Tyron Smith can't play today because now you can put Chuma Edoga at left guard, which he showed us through a game and a half. He's more than capable of stepping in and giving us some quality work. And then you can go back to last year, Tyler Smith having a season of kind of flip-flopping between left tackle, left guard. You can throw him at left tackle, and hopefully you don't lose a lot on the left side of your team. Or you could put Tyler Smith back at guard, let Chuma Edoga or Asim Richards play that left tackle spot. So it looks like the flexibility of our offensive line and the talent from the youth of our offensive line is starting to pay dividends very early in the season. So we just got to hope these guys come out and play, nobody gets hurt, and we have a good game against the Arizona Cardinals. And Joe saying, thank God we had a soft 4-game stretch because after New England, let's hope we have everyone back. Great point, Joe. I'll say this. I wouldn't necessarily call New England a soft part of the stretch. New England's defense is underrated. They've had a top 5 defense the past 3 years, I would say. They've only struggled because they have not figured out the quarterback position. Mac Jones isn't a household name, but I think he's a more than capable quarterback. He's shown us in the past 2 weeks that he is capable of putting the ball in the air and making plays when necessary. I mean, he almost won against the Eagles, if not for on the last drive, if it didn't get stalled. And then last week, he had another very good game against a solid defense. So I wouldn't necessarily call the Patriots a cakewalk. I still want my full complement of guys, especially on the offensive line, to be ready for that game because the strength of their team is their defensive front four. But great point. All right, guys, we're at 11:37. We're still doing good on time. So let's go to the next segment of the show where we'll get a little bit more participation from you guys. And that will be our bold predictions for this week's matchup.
Bold predictions.
All right, guys. So those of you who are new to the show, on our pregame show, we like to have a segment called Bold Predictions. So basically what I want from you guys who are watching, give me a bold prediction that you think will happen in this week's game. Not something that would be easily expected. So I'll start you off, for example. Great point, Shane Odom, and thank you for joining. We can't underestimate anyone. We have to have that killer attitude. That's right, because like I said, Wednesday, any given Sunday, you're going to get a team's best because even if a team plays well against Dallas, they don't win, but they play well. They're going to pick up that team and they're going to talk down on us because if that team can play well against Dallas, they must be on their way to turn the corner. Or Dallas struggled against X team. Maybe they aren't as good as we think they are. So great point, Shane Odom. So Brian coming in hot with the big bold prediction saying Micah Parsons gets 4 sacks against the Arizona Cardinals. If that one happens, Brian, I think we'll all probably break our TVs, but it definitely could happen based off of the limited talent on their offensive line. I see we got UK Cowboys fans joining us. I don't know who it is. I'm assuming it's Mike. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll definitely message you to let you know. And I see it is Mike at the end. I'll definitely message you to let you know when I'm available because I love talking football with my brothers from across the pond. All right, Joe coming with the bold prediction that Dak goes over 300 yards with 3 touchdowns. That's a very bold prediction, Joe. Definitely could happen in this week's matchup. Offensive line kind of gives me some worry, so we'll see what happens. Pre-game sweat saying bold prediction, Diggs replacements with plural, possibly plural with the parentheses, gets an interception today. Definitely something to watch out for. Now, I like to push back a little bit on these goal predictions pregame, Sweat, because Bland, who's considered the replacement, Bland is technically a ball hawk. So Bland getting the interception wouldn't be much of a bold prediction, especially considering he's probably going to be targeted heavily today. Now, if Bland and Lewis get an interception, that's definitely a bold prediction. David Dermer, I see you put your game prediction up. I'll hit that once we get the game prediction, so I'll make a note of it, and we'll get back to you on that one. But give me your bold prediction also, David Dermer. Mendoza, bold prediction. Turpin finally gets that regular season special teams touchdown that we've all been waiting for. And he says, and twice, an offensive TD. Mendoza, the special teams touchdown would be bold enough considering we've been waiting since week 1 of preseason last year for that special teams touchdown. To add that offensive TD, yeah, that definitely makes it extra bold. Pre-game saying, yes, that's a soft one. But, I mean, if both of them get one, that's a bold prediction. David Dermer coming with the Galley Monster with 2 sacks. That's a bold prediction, David. We talked about this Wednesday night. The middle of their defense is probably the weakest part, especially considering how unathletic Will Hernandez is. So you could definitely expect to see 2 sacks coming from the interior of their defensive line. They could come from one person, or they could come from multiple people. But Gallimore is a good one. Shane Odom says our tight ends have a combined 3 touchdowns. That would be great. Again, the Cardinals play a very soft zone defense because they're so limited in talent and their defensive line struggles so much. So our tight ends are our zone busters. They all are very interchangeable, and they're all capable of making big plays. David Durbin saying, yeah, it'll happen. I'm with you on that one. I would probably say Osa, but yours is definitely more bold with Gallimore. All right, guys. Let me give you my bold prediction, and if we don't get another one to come through, we'll move along with the show. So my bold prediction is, I said Wednesday night, their defensive line has a lot of struggles. And I told you guys that I expect Tony Pollard to get 120 yards rushing. I'm taking it up to make it bold to say Pollard gets 150 yards rushing today. Again, the defensive line is weak. They play a very soft zone, which means their secondary goes back into coverage quickly, and they turn and look at the quarterback. So if Pollard can break through the line of scrimmage, he may be 5-10 yards before he gets touched by another player. Even their linebackers drop back in coverage. And we know Pollard is very capable of breaking that first tackle. So I expect a lot of big plays out of Tony Pollard, and I expect him to have a very successful game on the ground. All right. I see the bold predictions are starting to slow down a little bit. So we're at 11:43. I want to get you guys out about 11:50. So let's keep the show moving, and we will go to a few of our keys to victory, and then we will touch on our game predictions for this week's game.
Game prediction. Key matchups.
All right, guys, having a little technical difficulties with my screens over here, but it's supposed to be keys to victory. So I have 3 keys to victory for this week's game. Brian doubling up, 50 yards rushing, 100-yard passing, 3 total touchdowns. All right, Brian, you're going a little too far with that one. Now you're going Madden level. But if that did happen, there would be some amazing statistics. And I promise you, you would never hear Zeke Elliott's name mentioned by another Cowboys fan if those stats were to happen today. Pre-game Sweat saying 4+ yak yards a carry for Tony Pollard. Definitely. I'm expecting that one. I'm expecting closer to 6, honestly. I think their defense is pretty poor. Yeah, he said passing or receiving. Either one would be huge, but if it's passing, yeah, that would be amazing. All right, let me go to my 3 keys to victory really quick. Number 1, the most important one, do not take this team lightly. I talked about this on Wednesday night. They have some very talented players on their offense. And their strengths are weaknesses to this team, especially considering considering Diggs is out. Hollywood Brown is a very talented wide receiver, and he can make big plays deep if you let him get behind you. Zach Ertz, very talented tight end if healthy. And then you got the quarterback, who I think is just a very talented guy who hasn't been given an opportunity. The team hasn't seen a lot of tape on him. He almost beat us last year. They have some chances to score a few points this week. And also, because this team plays a heavy zone and they're aggressive, there could be the opportunity for some turnovers in the passing game. I just leave it at that. Because they're watching the quarterback so much, if you read the zone wrong, mistakes can happen. So don't take these guys lightly. Let's just go out there and do what we do. Pre-game sweat there says the quarterback does not care who he's playing. He will give 100% at all times. And Joe saying I predict the defense will go over 6 sacks. That's a bold prediction, Joe, because the defense has been playing well, but to get 7+ sacks in the game would definitely be amazing. So now, I said don't take them lightly. That leads into my second key to victory. Let the stars be the stars. And I mean that in 2 different ways. Number 1, the star on your helmet. You're a Dallas Cowboy. You're supposed to be the best team in the league. Let that star shine today against a bad team. The second way I meant it, we're dealing with a lot of injuries. We lost our starting cornerback. We could be down our starting center. Our starting left tackle is still up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen with that. And Brandon Cooks is dealing with the injury also. We need to rely heavily on our best players making big plays. We cannot let this game get determined by a backup who's playing in a new position or playing for the first time to be our detriment. So if we lost Diggs, we know Bland's good, but let's not necessarily throw him out there on that island by himself because this team has been playing more man than anyone else in the league. Let's keep that safety over top of him, and let's let our star, Stephon Gilmore, do what he does as a number 1 corner. At the center position, don't let your center get put in one-on-one situations in his first game. He is being bookended by hopefully Tyler Smith, first-round pick, and Zach Martin, legendary guard, Hall of Famer. Don't let that guard get put in one-on-one situations. Let your star players help him out. On top of that, Brandon Cooks dealing with an injury. None of our other receivers have seemed to step up. Let's keep feeding CD Lamb because he's shown if you give it to him, he's going to make it happen. Let's let our stars be the stars in this game. All of our key players need to step up. Do not let one of these guys who's a backup or playing a new position be the reason we make this game competitive or even lose. Take it out of their hands. Give them the help. Let our stars be the stars. If Gilmore gets beat, I can live with that because it just happened. If Bland gets beat playing a new position because he didn't have help, I'm going to be upset. All right, and last point, and Joe saying after what Bart Scott said about Diggs getting hurt, the defense is out for blood. Great point. They're definitely going to be out for blood, and this team, in my opinion, has been one of the most cohesive units we've seen in about 10 years. So they're definitely going to ride for their brother and anybody who comes out. And thank you, pregame sweat. Definitely got to let the stars do what they do. The last key to victory, We got to get the momentum early. We are going to Arizona, so we're not going to be at home. So you got to remember that. We can't give them any inclination that they have a chance of winning this game because you never know how a crowd can mess up an offensive flow. So we got to shut them up early. We got to keep them quiet, and we got to continue to move the ball. Even if it's another game where it's 5 field goals, we need to keep putting points on their head. We cannot get behind in this game, even though I predicted in the show that we may end up behind in this game very early. They may score the first touchdown. They may score the first field goal. That's what I mean. Not like third quarter we're down, but I can see this team coming out early with hitting us with the kitchen sink to try to make an impact. So we have to take that away from them, and we have to get the ball rolling early to get that momentum going. All right, guys. So now I'm ready for your game predictions. So if you haven't done so already, Mendoza saying playing there is always a pain. It's just something about that place. Yeah. I was talking to my guy Jeff last week, and we were talking about that last game there in Buda Baker, and we got to give them some payback on that. Something about playing against those Cardinals that's always kind of tricky against the Cowboys, even going back to those old NFC East years when the Cardinals were a part of our division. So Brian coming with some late injury news. Now I haven't confirmed this, so Brian, please let me know who your source is on this because I can't go and look it up. So he says Martin and Tyler B are out today, and Tyron Smith game time decision. Please let me know what your source is on that, Brian. I don't want to put out false information, but I know you're one of those fans who is very knowledgeable and you keep up with the Cowboys. So if you said it, I'm almost certain that you wouldn't lead us wrong. And he says Fox Sports right on the TV. So I'm assuming we're down 2, maybe 3 offensive linemen today. That changes the look of the team dramatically. So if Tyron Smith is out, you're possibly looking at 3/5 of our offensive line being new guys. Um, I could talk another hour about just that, but we're at 11:52. I don't want to hold you guys up from watching football. So we'll just go right into these game predictions that have been coming. First game prediction, David Dermer, 34-17 Cowboys. Shane Odom, 33-9 Dallas. Joe, another 40 burger, 40-14 Dallas. Me personally, I think this team finds a way to score about 17 points on us. So I'm putting it 33-17. Now that I've heard 3 of our offensive linemen are out, I'm a little bit concerned about that. But I think we're still good enough. If we let our stars be the stars, that we should still be able to put up 30+ points. And our defense isn't hurt enough that we don't beat them by at least 10 points. Mendoza saying 33-9 sounds about right. And Brian saying 27-17. You know, Brian, I'm kind of leaning towards taking a touchdown off the score and going 27-17 with you. I'm gonna stick with 33-17. I think we make it happen this week. Their defensive line still doesn't scare me. Um, I still think we can run on them. I think we'll probably rely on the run game more just to not put Dak in situations against the depleted defensive line. I expect to see a lot more blitzing. Let me say this and then we'll move on. One thing to watch today with the news we just got, look for blitzing. The strength of an offensive line is normally from the inside. It comes from your play callers from the center position and the guard position. If it looks the way it looks right now, our center is new and our guard is going to be new. So there's going to be some chances for miscommunication, pointing out who the read is, line shifts, watching the blitz. So expect this team to try to make us try to get us more confused up front. Pre-game sweat saying 24-13. Um, expect for them to try to confuse us up front. Like pregame sweat says, it's going to be a short game clock. We're going to probably have to ride this down to the 1 second mark to make sure that we have our protections the way we want them to be. So expect a little bit of sloppy play in the passing game because the protections are probably not going to be where they should be, considering not only are the guys calling the shifts going to be new in terms of calling shifts, but they're also going to be new in terms of taking on NFL talent. Got to feed Tony Pollard. Put it in his hands. Hope he can keep the ball moving. Definitely agree with you on that one. All right, guys. Last segment of the show, 11:55. I'm going to give you a few of my fantasy favorites going into this week's game. You guys put them in the comments as well, and then we'll get out of here.
Fantasy favorites.
So, I'm not saying bench Dak. There are some good matchups out there if you have the opportunity, and I'll get into those right now. So, last segment of the show, fantasy favorites. I personally don't like to give guys who are considered top 5 at their position fantasy favorites. I like to give you the ones to look out for that aren't the easy ones. So, with pregame sweat bringing up Dak, I'll have to give you a couple of ones that aren't quarterbacks who aren't like top tier. I really like Kirk Cousins this week going against the LA Chargers. The Chargers secondary is weak. Their defense has been underperforming. This is pretty much a must-win game for both teams. So I'm expecting Kirk Cousins to have a very good game. Mendoza taking my other one at the running back position. Jahmyr Gibbs, the David Montgomery's out. The Falcons front seven isn't the best. The team has been slow playing Jahmyr Gibbs the past 2 weeks. I think they're going to unleash him today, and he's going to get a lot of reps. Also, I'm looking at if you need another quarterback, I'm looking at Geno Smith going against the Carolina Panthers. That team is kind of depleted. The quarterback's hurt. They're going to get a lot of extra possessions because I think Andy Dalton's going to make a lot of mistakes. So I think you're going to get a lot of good volume there. And then if you need a receiver, I would probably go to Addison with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm going back to that game. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Justin Jefferson's going to get a lot of attention. Addison, the rookie, is going to get a lot of one-on-one situations. And I've been comparing him to this year's Gabe Davis. He just finds a way to make deep catches and get long touchdowns. So that's another guy to watch. In today's game against the Cowboys, Jake Ferguson's a good option. I've said heavily, I love Tony Pollard this week. So Tony Pollard is a guy that you definitely need to get in your lineup. Jalen Waddle is out this week for Miami, so you got to pay attention to that. Denver does have some very good corners, but I will say this. If Tua's healthy, I think Tua's a must start. That offense is pretty loaded, even with Tyreek Hill. The tight ends are good. The backup can come in and give you some good snaps for Jalen Waddle, and their running backs are okay out of the backfield. So Tua's a must start for me. So Ferguson, Tony Pollard, and of course, Ferguson, tight end zones, Tony Pollard. You can go CD Lamb, but like I said, I try to go guys who aren't the top guys. Great one, Taysom Hill, who, depending on which fantasy league you're playing in, is considered a quarterback / tight end. And he's giving you a lot of rushing yards also. So Taysom Hill is a triple threat. I'm assuming you mean Taysom Hill. You might mean Tyreek Hill too. But Taysom Hill is also a good one if you need a tight end last minute. All right, guys. that's pretty much all we got for the show. I'm running right up against 12 o'clock. So if you guys haven't done so already, we will see you this Wednesday at 8:30 Central Standard Time for another episode of the Cowboys. Hopefully we will be celebrating another Victory Wednesday, and we'll be looking ahead to what I consider to be a very tough matchup against the New England Patriots. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to subscribe. Enjoy a full day of NFL football, and I'll see you guys Wednesday. Have a good night, and as always, let's go Cowboys.
Thank you for watching the Cowboy Zone.